Here in Westminster, the Tories are going to be seeking parliamentary approval for their legislative programme during a Commons vote. That's later today. The Labour Party is seeking to introduce elements of their general election manifesto, saying the Conservative programme is, in their words, in tatters. Let's speak now to Dave Penman. He's General Secretary of the First Division Association Union. Joins me now from Cardiff. It's probably fair to say you have 18,000 members, but they're pretty influential. We're talking about senior civil servants, we're talking about diplomats, and of course, the pay cap that the Conservatives want to keep going for another 2 years at least, that's something that you want to see continue, or have you had enough of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're right. The members of the FDA are some of the most senior public servants in the land. They're the people who will be doing the heavy lifting for government in terms of the Brexit negotiations. They're already working hard on the options for government, and they're also delivering vital public servants. So they have paid a heavy price for austerity. Many of them are taking home less money now than they did in 2010. So yes, we've written to the Chancellor and said we want to see an end to the pay cap and the restoration of decent pay rises for public servants.
What happened after the referendum? Because presumably a lot of money that was going to certain departments had to be switched into that Brexit department.
Yeah, well, the Chancellor only gave money to the Foreign Office. Other than that, the only additional resources he put into Brexit were to create the 2 new departments. So every other government department has had to cope with the implications of Brexit. Thousands of civil servants working on the options for government with no additional resources for those departments. So that inevitably means further cuts that departments have got to deliver, on top of the 20% on average efficiencies that they're expected to deliver this Parliament.
Dave, let's face it, your members have a unique access to the very people who are making these decisions. Senior civil servants are talking to cabinet ministers and the Prime Minister, indeed, every day. Is there some silent or not so silent lobbying going on at that level?
Well, of course, the civil service is making its case to government about the resources that it needs. But ultimately, that is a decision for government. That's a decision for ministers. And up till now, that's been falling on deaf ears because there hasn't been, for most government departments, any additional resources. Now, clearly, the government have to decide now what they're going to do. There's going to be one fiscal event in the autumn, a budget, and hopefully a spending round. That's what we've called for, a new spending round for government, because it's simply madness to suggest that decisions that were taken in 2015 about the resources departments had would not be changed in light of the referendum result and the challenges that the civil service is facing over the next few years in delivering a successful Brexit for the country.
And if that autumn budget doesn't deliver?
Well, resources have to be found from somewhere. Let's take the latest offer that the government are talking about for EU citizens. 3.2 million EU citizens living and working in this country will need to be registered. They're not registered just now. They'll need to apply if they want for citizenship. They'll need to prove that. There will be challenges, there will be appeals, and yet the government is saying that the Home Office can cope with that. Now, that's just madness to suggest that's the case. So if the Home Office has got to cope with that on top of everything else, then something will have to government. Government has to decide it's either going to give extra resources or it's going to stop doing something.
Are you hearing from your members, and as I say, we're talking about senior diplomats, we're talking about senior civil servants, are they in touch with you saying, look, we're really struggling?
Of course, and they were struggling before Brexit because the previous government had cut resources by 20% between 2010 and 2015, and then they were expected to deliver a further 20% on top of that. So Brexit just adds to the complexity of that. And, you know, clearly they want to deliver a positive outcome for the UK. That's their job. They are committed public servants, some of the most able people in the country working on one of the most difficult challenges that government has faced since the Second World War, but they need to be given the tools to do that. And what I can't understand is why the government would not want to do that. Why would you starve the very people who you're asking to deliver a successful outcome of the resources needed to deliver that?
Dave Penman, good of you to give us your time this afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us here on BBC News.